Welcome to Conversations with Cindy, and welcome Jay Hickson. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Excited to be here. It looks like a great day.
Yes, it is. It's not raining and it's freezing, so it is a good day. Conversations with Cindy is to have a conversation with different people for different reasons. It isn't really about one type of show or one type of person. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is because you have been so insightful to me over the years. And first of all, you're the oldest person I know. And I remember I said this to you one day, and folks, let me tell you what he said back to me. What did you say, Jay?
I said, I'm the oldest person I know.
Well, you know, I know so many different people, and usually I'm the oldest person in the room. So I'm just so happy that I can sit next to you and have someone older than me and lean on your shoulder. Okay. You've been a wonderful mentor to me over the years. And I remember the very first time that I met you was back in 2006 or 7. That's a senior moment that I can't remember. But I remember seeing you at a Toastmaster meeting, and we were pushing chairs out of the way and leaving the room. And then I know you remember this story better than me, this story. So I'll let you go ahead and tell it.
You came up to me and you were our regional manager, I guess. That wasn't the title they were using, but that's what you were. And you said, would you be interested in working in the district? And I said, lady, let me explain something to you. I'm never going to do anything except support this club. I'm not going outside of the club. I'm only going to work in the club. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm not interested in going anywhere. And then 5 years later, you go from where you were on your Toastmaster trail to being the head of the entire state. And our club was kind of falling behind. So I wanted to visit some clubs and find out what we could do to improve our club. And somebody came up to me and said, would you like to be a regional director? And I said, sure, which would get me into clubs. So one of the other people wanted to do a demonstration to increase the number of clubs he had. And he asked me if I would help him. And I said, yeah, I volunteered. So I showed up down at the AJC, and I'm sitting there at a table, and who walks in but you? And I'm looking straight ahead, and you walk over and sit down beside me, and you keep looking straight ahead. And you said, I thought you were never going to leave your club. And I said, things change, things happen. And that's when you and I became friends.
That's absolutely how I remember it happening, except I did say, after you said things change, I said, yes, they do. So now you're going to be an area director for me, or area governor back at that time for me. And you did, and I appreciate all the help and the mentoring that you did. It was a lot of fun. And I was glad to see you get out of the club. But outside of that, we became very good friends. And, you know, I've listened to your stories. You're one of the best storytellers I know out there. Jay, you've been very successful. I know you'll be very humble about this, but I know that you've had multiple different careers over your life, between being a manufacturer rep, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. And then I know that you've done different types of marketing programs, and you've been a millionaire before several times. And you have so much knowledge and wisdom that we want to hear from you. And that's why I want to talk to you today, is to share, not just to me, but for everybody else to hear your wonderful stories. You started out, I know that you grew up in Pennsylvania and you moved around a little bit, came back to Pennsylvania and I think it was Western Pennsylvania. Is that correct?
Right.
And then your father was a minister. I seem to be meeting lots of people that have fathers as ministers. I can't even imagine what that would be like. But tell us what that was like for you. Give us a little bit of how you started and how you ended up eventually here in Georgia.
PK's on the loose. I know that some of the other people that you have on your agenda were also preachers' kids. And growing up as a small kid, people used to come up to me and said, are you going to grow up to be like your father? And I would always say, no. And they would say, why? And I said, because I don't want to be that good. And my, my dad walked his talk. He was genuine. He did what he did. But my grandfather was financially independent, and he became independent probably in his early 40s. And that's who I wanted to be like. I wanted to be like my grandfather. Plus, my grandfather could swear, and, and I wasn't allowed to swear. So it just seemed to me that being like my grandfather was going to be a lot more fun than living a very straight-laced life like my dad did. I really learned to appreciate him later after I grew up. And he actually was my first self-improvement person. I know today we have a lot of people that we follow. I know you do and I do. But my dad gave me a lot of positive input at an early age, and I didn't realize it until I got older. Today, at Christmas time, our youngest granddaughter was down from New York City, and she invited me to participate in a 30-day of yoga.
Oh
So
my goodness.
I said that I would. And so I'm doing yoga, and I'm on like the 27th day today. And it's
Wow.
amazing. It's amazing because I didn't realize how stiff I was. I'd lost a lot of flexibility and all, and I'm getting that back. And I decided in November that we have a baby grand piano that's sitting in our front room and nobody's playing it. So I decided I wanted to play the piano. So I took on 2 projects, playing the piano and yoga. And when the kids got together with us at Christmas time, I played some Christmas songs. Jingle Bells was the first song I learned to play. So,
oh my goodness, I gotta stop you for a second. And folks, if you don't know, he's like the best singer in the world. One time, do you remember this? One time I came into a room and I didn't know it was his birthday. And he was sitting there singing a song. What was the song?
76 trombones led the
That's
big
exactly
parade.
what it was. It was when you were 76 too.
That was my birthday, yeah.
And he sat there singing it, and I didn't know to laugh or cry. Was it sad that he was singing for himself, or was it happy that I got to hear someone singing that was 76 years old? And I remembered that I made the whole group try to sing for you. So that is awesome. Obviously, you're a man of very many talents. And at 83,
Singing is not one of them.
well, but I remember you've done so many new things in the course of the career that I've had. You telling me about salespeople that you've gone out to see, and you're starting a new sales business. I mean, you went into this wonderful business. You just decided to start it. And I don't want to say it's multi-level marketing in case I'm wrong, but is it multi-level marketing? I believe it is.
We have that now, yes.
But that's not how you look at it. And how many people do you have underneath you? I mean, you've been
Almost
doing
almost 17,000.
wow. I remember the very first person you were calling, and you hit that phone, and I mean, that's why I love talking to you, because you really know what it's like to be a sales rep. And I know that we're going a little astray from our interview here, but I love the fact that about the manufacturer rep, what you do for those that don't know what it is, and then tell us about the multi-level marketing and what made you successful in both of them, because you've been doing the rep for a long time, and 17,000, it hasn't been that many years to get that many people. My goodness.
Well, it's an amazing thing, and I remember I got out of high school, I went to college. It didn't take me long to know that I had no idea why I was in college. And so I was playing chess in the hall with another student, and all of a sudden I stood up and I said, I'm out of here. And he said, what are you talking about? You're out of here. We're not finished with the game. I said, when I figure out what I am supposed to do, I'll come back to school. But until then, I'm out of here. And I walked out that day.
Wow.
I did a lot of things. I worked in the factory. I worked in 3 factories and determined I didn't want to work in a factory. I worked in a sales office and I determined I didn't want to work in an office. So it wasn't that I was finding out what I wanted to do, it was finding out what I didn't want to do. And so it's through a process of elimination. But one of the factories that I worked in, they would call it HR now, but the personnel lady kind of took an interest in me and she said, well, you need to get tested. So she tested me, and out of 100 points, sales tested 30 from the bottom. And when I went in to get the evaluation on the test, she said, are you interested in medicine? And I said, no. And I said, why? And she said, well, for an osteopath, you tested 93. You're really at the top in medicine. And I said, I have no interest in medicine. Kind of like when you and I talk, I have no interest in getting outside my club. I said, I have no interest in medicine. And she said, oh, well, you test real high. I said, what are some of my other tests? She said, well, you'd be a great coach. You tested high 80s in coaching people and developing teams and all of that. And she said, she ran down the page and she said, gee, you only tested 30 in sales. So I knew that I was never going into sales, because I thought of a salesman as a guy with a checker jacket, a cigar, and slap you on the back and try and sell you something. And I knew I didn't want to do that. So I won't get into all the stuff in the factories and the offices, but I knew I didn't want to do that because I liked being outside. We had lived on a farm. My grandfather died when I was going into my freshman year in high school. And so I liked being outside. And I found out, I did some sales work, but then I got hired by a Fortune 500 company. They sent me to West Virginia. I said, gee, I've lived in Virginia, I've lived in Western Pennsylvania, I've visited upstate New York. They had a territory up there, but I'd only visited in the summertime. I didn't know what the winters were like in Buffalo and Schenectady and all that. So I said, I just hope they don't send us to West Virginia. Well, they sent us to West Virginia, and it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I met the people in West Virginia. They were beautiful, wonderful people that I still stay in touch with today.
That is awesome.
They're great people. And it changed my life, because there is a story, and you probably heard me tell it, where I had been introduced to a buyer at Union Carbide. And so Monday I went to work and I drove to Union Carbide and I called on the buyer, and I wasted 2 hours of his time, and I didn't have any money to take him to lunch. So I went downtown, bought a hamburger and a milkshake, and went to a movie. And that's what I did that afternoon. So I went back Tuesday and I called on him again, and I left at 11 o'clock when I had a hamburger, milkshake, and a movie. And Wednesday I had a hamburger, milkshake, and a movie after I saw him. And I did that for 4 days. And on the 4th day, I went and visited a park, because I only had 3 movies in downtown Charleston, West Virginia. So on Friday, he wouldn't see me. Can you imagine that? I wasted 4 days and he wouldn't see me all Friday. So I went out and I sat down in my car and I looked at my account book and I said, oh, DuPont, that's a chemical company. I'll go over and see what they have. And I walked in and I gave a lady my card, and she said, well, where's Mr. Gottlieb? And I said, Mr. Gottlieb has gone into the insurance business and I'm his replacement. And she said, oh, she said, well, are you just starting? Because I looked very young, and I was very young. And she said, you are so lucky to start your sales career in West Virginia. And I said, oh, really? Why is that? She said, because West Virginians are good people. And if you ever need help, all you have to do is ask. So I'm waiting for the buyer to come out. He comes out, we go into a little room with a little table, and he shuts the door and turns the light on. And I opened my sample case and I looked at him and I said, help. That's all I said. And he said, what? And I said, help. He said, what are you talking about? I said, I talked this company into giving me this job, but I don't know anything about the products. And I said, that lady out there told me at the desk that people in West Virginia are good people, and if I ever need help, all I got to do is ask. So I'm saying, help. He said, are you serious? I said, I'm as serious as a heart attack. He said, come with me. He took me back to his desk. He called an engineer and he said, would you come up here? We have a young man who needs help. He came up. They spent 2 hours with me going through my sample kit,
Wow.
telling me what product they bought from me and how it was used. And I thanked them and I went back. I drove 60 miles back to where I was staying. Monday morning, I get up, I go back to Union Carbide. The receptionist saw me walking across the lobby and laughed out loud as I came up to her. She said, I bet I know who you want. I said, who? She said, the buyer. I said, no, that's not who I want to see. And I pulled out this engineer's card from DuPont and I said, do you have anybody here with a title like this? She said, we do. I said, that's who I want to see. So she called him and she said, would you see this guy? And he said, send him up. I walked in. I said, hi, I'm Jay Hickson. I'm here to replace Jack Gottlieb. And I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to ask you for your help. And he said, oh, how can I help you? And I said, well, these 3 products is what DuPont uses, but what I want to know is what do you use and how do you use it? And he spent 45 minutes going through my kit, telling me what he did. And when he finished, he said, I said, is there anybody else here at Union Carbide that uses our product? He said, yeah, Fred. I said, would you mind picking up the phone and calling Fred and get me an appointment? He said, sure. For the next 2 weeks, from 8 o'clock every morning till 4 o'clock every afternoon, I was in Union Carbide. What I didn't realize, I was profiling that account. I was learning who the players were. I was learning how to use the product. I was being self-educated on the products. And after 2 weeks, I sat down, made a 13-week itinerary, took my map, and I went out and saw all the accounts. And I would walk in and say, hi, I'm Jay Hickson. I need your help. And they would tell me
Wow.
all about their product. So by the end of 13 weeks, I had visited all my accounts. I had learned tremendous about the accounts, and that changed my life. And I said, well, I do like being outside. And if somebody doesn't buy something from me this month, I can go back and see them next month. So it
Well,
was
that is
great.
awesome. You know what? This should be put out there for sales because that's what sales is all about is relationships. No wonder you're successful with all those people underneath you. Now, I know that, obviously at 83, you started to play piano, you started doing yoga, like you said, but I want to know what drives you.
I guess one of the things that drives me most is being told I can't do something and then looking for opportunities because there are opportunities everywhere. We just had an election and there's some people that are very happy about the outcome and there's some people who are very unhappy about the outcome. Well, we can sit around and cry in our beer all day long. It doesn't get anything done. What we have to do is what we can control. We can't control a lot of things, but there are a few things we can control. One is our attitude and the other is our actions. And so focus on what we can do and let's go about our business.
See, that is awesome. I know that if I told you you couldn't do something, that you would stop right there and you would prove me wrong and that you would go out there and you would do it. We're very similar in that sense. Jay, why do you think you were successful and still are successful? It's not were.
I wouldn't quit. And almost everybody that I know that is successful, we have all had setbacks. We have all had successes and what some people would call failures, but all it was an adjustment. And we can sit around and cry about that, or we can go on and do something else. I had to recognize what it took to be recognized. I'll give you an example. You see these pencils? Well, at AMP, I wanted to get into a new program that they started. And I tried to figure out, well, how am I going to get recognized? They got 190 sales guys out here in the field. And here I am tucked away in West Virginia. Nobody's ever going to see me. And I thought, what's it going to take? What's it going to take? And then I realized that you don't have to be twice as good as anybody else. You don't have to be smarter than anybody else. You don't have to be better looking than anybody else. If I had to depend on those things, I would never get recognized. But the thing is, as you see with that pencil, just a little bit, not a lot, will get you recognized. And I found out later in life, just do a little better each day. The piano, I do a little better each day. The yoga, I do a little better each day. And you just have to be a little bit better to rise above the crowd and be recognized. But you got to be recognized for people to see who you are.
Well, absolutely. And just like you said, they said in West Virginia to ask for help. So many people are afraid to ask for help. And with what you're talking about right now, that goes in line that if you're doing something and you want to do business with someone, you have to ask for it, because it's not like you deserve it. You need to earn it and be able to get out there. You know, I've heard you reinvent yourself several times, or you tell the stories over the years of how you've reinvented yourself. I want to know, how many times do you think you have reinvented yourself?
A lot. The fundamentals stay the same. The fundamentals stay the same, but the approach and the identity may change. For example, I was on a program at Toastmasters with Les Brown. He was the keynote speaker, and I spoke earlier in the day ahead of him. It came time to schedule me in on the program, and they said, well, do you want to speak just before Les? I said, no. Do you want to speak just after Les? No. I said, when's he talking? And she said, 12 o'clock. I said, put me in at 9. And it gave me an opportunity. I'd met Les a few times before that. And it was a terrific experience to be on the same program that Les was on. His ability to focus just blew me away. The first time I met him, there was a lot of people around us, and he and I looked eye to eye and we talked. And I was so amazed. It was like we were in a bubble, and he was just totally focused on me. And I still can't focus like he does on people, but he gave me full attention, no matter who was around us, or nobody bothered us. It was terrific.
He is amazing. Well, let me interrupt for a second. Speaking of which, to the audience, like this page and share it right now. That's what Les always says, and he's out there online now. Like this page and share it, please. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, that's fine, but you have to reinvent yourself continually. You have to update yourself. Things change. I think your fundamentals and your basics have to remain the same, but you have to adjust to the times and what the market is and who the people are. I don't necessarily address somebody who is in their early 20s the same way that I would address somebody that is in their 80s. But
oh goodness, no. And let me ask you something. If you have one piece of advice that you could give to us, what would it be?
I'll take it from today. You ain't seen nothing yet. The best is yet to come. And I would ask more questions. I would ask for what I wanted more. I thought that I did a lot of that, but I would do so much more. You know, we don't have confidence about certain things. And so consequently we say, well, gee, I'd like to know. Well, ask. Jack Canfield wrote a book, the genie, it wasn't the genie.
The Secret?
No, it was,
Chicken Soup of the Soul? Not Chicken Soup, so that must be an age thing. That's okay.
Anyway, he wrote a book about asking, and he said, you don't get unless you ask. And that is a big factor. That's a huge factor. But I would ask more. I would focus on what I can control, and what I can't control, stay away from. And the piano and the yoga recently has taught me a truth, and that is a little each day. Do a little better each day. And soon you'll find yourself on that island or on that mountaintop or wherever it is you want to be.
That's awesome advice. Well, Jay, I really appreciate having you as a guest, and I'm sure our followers will agree with me. It's been so nice, and I hope, as always, that the audience got so much out of what you had to say, because we can listen to you all day, and we hope the conversations will bring you a brighter tomorrow.
I've got a great new product, and anybody out there, if you want to look younger, if you want to feel younger, give me a call.
How do people get in touch with you? That's a very good point. How do people get in touch with you, Jay?
678-575-6742. Email memjay@aol.com. My website's almost as old as I am, or my email.
Oh, that's so funny. But I know they can reach you if you have that many people working underneath you.
Well, they're not underneath me, they're with me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future.